Good afternoon. Thank you very much for coming today. I greatly appreciate it. I will try and keep my remarks relatively brief. We'll try and shoot for about 7 or 8 minutes in total for that, and then open up for questions because I'm sure that there are going to be some questions. Just to give everyone a heads up, there are no questions that are off the table. If there is anything at all that you want to ask about with respect to COVID-19 or what the province is doing, I'm happy to field them, even if they are not related to what we are announcing today. I'm going to start with the framework for reopening the economy. Yesterday, Premier Ford made the announcement about how we're going to start moving forward with reopening the economy. It was at a very broad base that he spoke yesterday. What I want to talk about specifically today is measures that we're going to be taking locally and what we're looking to do to open up the economy here. Starting on May 4th, we will be having another series of roundtables. These will be much more focused, though. We're looking to have groups of somewhere between 6 to 10 in each of the roundtables, and they will be very industry specific. The roundtables that we've done so far have been very broad-based. We have asked, just as an example, anyone involved in the hospitality and tourism industry, they will be part of today's. Starting on May 4th, that will be narrowed down much more. We will talk specifically with seasonal camp operators. We'll talk specifically with small resorts. We'll talk specifically with restaurants. As we move into the other areas, we'll talk specifically with certain types of retail industries. For example, clothing industry may be one that we have just clothing retailers on it. We need to get the information specifically about all of those businesses so that we can give some guidelines on how we should be opening in a responsible manner. Opening up the economy to its full extent is going to be a challenge for us. The challenge is balancing with COVID-19, making sure that we have proper social distancing in place. We've done very, very well in the Peterborough area. However, if you look at the numbers in the last 3 or 4 days, we have seen a significant increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in the greater Peterborough area. I can't give you an explanation why today, because we don't have all of the data on that. But we have to be very, very cautious as we open up the economy. We can't make the mistake of opening too quickly and then having to shut things down again because of another outbreak in COVID. That would be a disaster for Ontario if that happens. A second thing I want to talk about is the commercial rent relief for small businesses. This is a federal provincial joint program. Province is picking up a portion of the cost of rent. The federal government is picking up a portion of the rent. The landlord would be reducing their rent by 25%, and the tenant would be picking up about 25% of what their rent should have been. We recognize that there are some challenges with this, that not every single building is going to meet the requirements for it, that not every single business is going to meet the requirements for it. Anyone who has any questions about it, any businesses or any landlords that have questions about it, please feel free to reach out to my office and we'll work with you on it. One of the requirements for mixed tenancy, where there's a combination of residential and commercial, is that it's at least 30% commercial. Where that can create a challenge for us in the downtown area of Peterborough is we have the ground floor being commercial and we have multiple floors above, which could very well be residential. This is going to be a unique situation that we will work with all of the landlords and all of the tenants to find a way to make this work for them. There is no blanket solution that is going to be 100% correct, and we recognize that. So if you have questions or concerns, please reach out to us and we will do everything we can to make sure that you can get your rent covered. Next, I want to talk about the Agri-Food Open for E-Business program. We have a lot of agriculture industry in our area. And we recognize that those businesses need to be able to sell their products. If you're a small agri-food business and you want to go online and sell, we have a program that will allow up to a $5,000 grant to help you with that. If you're a larger producer and you're not currently online, the support goes up to $75,000 for it. Those are much larger producers, though, that would be doing those types of things. It is for farmers markets, for retailers, garden centers, greenhouses, nurseries, and agriculture associations, allowing them all to expand their presence online, allowing them all to get into e-business so that they can continue selling their product, not only to people in our regional area, but across all of Ontario. These are things that the agri-food business really didn't have to consider prior to COVID-19. We want to make sure that we're putting everyone in the best possible position to stay open, to do their business, and do it in a responsible way. And the last thing I want to talk about is the extended closure of schools. Schools will remain closed until the end of May. I know this has created some concerns for some families. Homeschooling, they're finding more difficult. There are challenges with the internet. There are challenges with getting broadband. There are challenges when a family has 4 or 5, possibly 6 school-age kids, all needing to share that bandwidth, all needing to share the computer to have access to the things that they should be learning. No student is going to be in a position where they won't be able to graduate because of what's happening with COVID-19. I can't emphasize that enough. We're working with school boards to try and get technology out to them. And in cases where we can't get technology, where they do not have speed internet access, there are hard copies of all of the education plans that will be sent to those families and to those kids. Every measure possible will be taken to make sure that kids can continue with their education and they're not going to find themselves penalized because of what's happening with COVID-19. This is a significant challenge for most people. Everything that we're going through is something that nobody in our generation has ever had to face in the past. We will get through this together. We have to continue remaining vigilant with respect to social distancing. We have to continue doing the things that are bringing down the infection rate in Ontario. We're almost there, and we can't let all of that bad work or all of that good work go to waste because we start doing things that we shouldn't be doing. Last thing I want to say is one of our shout outs. Enbridge Gas has made a donation of face shields to Hospice Peterborough. Can't thank them enough for that. They are supporting our community that way. Hospice Peterborough supports a number of people in our community that are already going through a very difficult time. COVID-19 thrown on top of that, it just makes it that much more difficult for them. I can't thank Enbridge enough for reaching out or making the donation of face shields so that people have the opportunity to spend some time with their loved ones at hospice. Happy to answer any questions anyone has. If you could raise your virtual hand for me when you have a question, we'll acknowledge you. We'll start with Taylor.
Thanks, Dave. Just had a question about testing capacity right now. How do you feel about where Ontario currently sits in terms of testing capacity, and where do you expect to see it go next?
So capacity at the laboratories has exceeded the capacity that we have for the testing kits themselves right now. We can do about 13,500, 14,000 tests at any given day. Part of the challenge that we have is in obtaining those testing kits. We have committed to doing more testing. We want to make sure that we get to the point where anyone who wants to be tested can be tested. There is still a time delay in some areas. Not all of the labs are reporting back as quickly, but we are getting there and it is improving. One of the challenges that we faced, and it is a significant challenge, we have 14.5 million people in Ontario. In order to test everyone, we're going to need 14.5 million testing kits, and there simply are not 14.5 million test kits available on the worldwide market for us to get. It is going to have to be done incrementally. We are acquiring more of it. Health Canada is stepping up, and they are approving local companies, local to Ontario. One of the challenges that we face with that, we have companies in Ontario right now who have test kits available, who have a product that can do the testing for us. They're authorized in other countries, but they're not authorized to be used in Canada yet. We have to work through that with the federal government, and we need to make sure that every company in Ontario that can produce that high quality product is allowed to sell that product in Ontario and throughout Canada. I know that Health Canada is working diligently to try and get through this backlog. We need to get it done more quickly, though.
The only other question I had is if you just have any general responses to how you feel about, the public health response here in Peterborough, but then also, how the people of Peterborough have been faring, and if you have any messages for the people right now.
I think our health response here in Peterborough has been very, very good. Up until this past weekend, the number of cases that we've had has grown very slowly. We had a little bit of a blip over the weekend. Part of that, I think, is due to the fact that we had the Easter long weekend, and I'm afraid that there were some people who didn't follow the social distancing rules. When you look at our healthcare providers, they have done an exceptional job. When you look at what Peterborough Public Health has done, they have done a very good job keeping people up to date on things. Our paramedics have stepped up. They are doing the testing in the homes, in the long-term care homes. Everyone is working together, and I think you're seeing the result of it here locally. The number of people who have shown up and kept social distancing, I might add, applauding the hospital when they are coming to the different long-term care facilities and thanking the residents, thanking the people who are working in there. These are all good things. They're happy stories that we need to keep talking about because it shows our community is supporting each other. And for the most part, we're doing the right things to get through this. And I don't have enough praise that I can give to all those frontline workers who are doing those things, who are putting themselves out, who are working the extra hours, and they're making sure that our community is safe.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Dave. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Kelly, you don't have your hand up, but your mic is turned on. Do you have any questions?
It is. I didn't even know it was on. No, it's good. I realized that Newer's actually got this covered for checks, and I just guess I'm just on here to see you guys. Hey.
Thank you.
Although I guess while I have you here, the weather's starting to get a little bit warmer, and obviously here in Peterborough, we're kind of cottage country area. Is that any concern for the province?
Yeah, it is a real concern, and we hear it daily in our office. People asking why can't they go to their cottage? Why can't they put their boat in the water? Why can't they go to their trailer? Ultimately, it comes down to this. The more times that you go out, the more things that you interact with, the more opportunity you have of spreading the virus or picking the virus up. The virus can only move with people. And if people don't move around, then the virus doesn't move around. As the weather gets nicer, we're all going to have that temptation. We want to go and do the things that we used to be able to do. We have to stay the course, though. If we take another week or two and we continue with that social distancing, it puts us in that much better of a position. If we decide that no, the desire I have today to go out and do something that I've been told I shouldn't do, and I'm going to continue doing it, well, you're putting not only yourself at risk, but you're putting others at risk. If we work together, we'll get through it quickly. When we don't work together, that's when we're going to have a problem. Newer, I saw in the chat that you raised your virtual hand in the chat. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and please go ahead. I'm going to try and unmute you, Noor. Okay, I've unmuted you. Would you like to ask?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. I just had a quick question, Dave. I know lots of people across several municipalities, are repeatedly asking their mayors when it's going to reopen, what's the plan for reopening. Is that something that you think people should be focusing on right now, or are we not quite there yet? Should we just focus on the physical distancing and leave that to later?
We're close. I'll say that. And we've been doing this now for 6 weeks. I understand a lot of the frustration that people have. I understand that when you're sitting at home and you're socially isolating, it kind of sucks. I understand that the financial concerns that everyone has creates an added stress for everyone. Believe me, I get that. I have been through that myself many times. I understand it. But we have to stay the course. Today we saw almost 500 cases of COVID-19, 500 positive cases. It means that the virus is still spreading, and it's still spreading at a rate that is a little bit alarming. If we can bring it down some, if we can get to a point where we have a few days in a row where there aren't very many new cases, it means that the virus will be dying off. As long as it is continuing to come in at 450, 500, 600 cases a day, there's still too much risk. So we have to bring that number down, and we have to keep in mind it's a temporary problem that we have. The more we work together, the more we adhere to it, the faster we'll be able to open everything back up again. If we lose that diligence, if we find that we're in a position where people are just so frustrated that they don't want to follow it, and then we're into 700, 800, 900 cases, new cases a day, it puts us so much further behind. It sucks having to sit at home. I totally get that. It sucks. It sucks not being able to go spend time with your family or spend time with your friends. This is the time of year where the weather has started to change. It's warmer. It provides a lot more hope that we're going to have a great summer. I understand all of those things. But ultimately, we have to stay diligent, fight the urge, because if we do, we'll be able to open sooner. And if we don't, it's going to prolong the problem.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for that, Dave.
Thank you. The only other thing I forgot to mention, I'll throw it in right at the very end. At the beginning of the COVID-19 process, there was not a single company in Ontario that produced masks. As of the 1st of May, so basically on Monday, we will have 25 companies in Ontario that are producing surgical masks and the equivalent of N95 masks. That is a massive increase. 25 companies in this province are now helping, and we are getting to a point where we're not going to have to rely on China to provide us with those types of masks. I think that's fabulous news for the entire province. We're almost at a point where we will be self-sufficient with it. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Greatly appreciate it. And I look forward to doing this again later on in the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.